The University of Alabama putting week 2 of spring practice in the books as we have returned from the break on In My Own Words, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. From discussing the quarterback conversation to Nick Saban's love for experimenting with players, and also getting a chance to look at the 3 guys I have that look to replace, fill the void left behind by defensive tackle Daron Payne. It's been a great week of shows. Great edition of shows. Very strong content. And before we get into the final segment, just some news and notes around the football program. Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide adding another defensive analyst to the staff and bringing in Lou Spanos from the Tennessee Titans, coming over from the National Football League. Spanos served as linebackers coach for the Titans from 2014 to this past season. Prior to that, he was the defensive coordinator for the UCLA Bruins from 2012 to 2013. So, Crimson Tide getting an NFL guy as a defensive analyst in Lou Spanos. Also, details on Lyle Jones' contract has come out. Butch Jones will serve as an off-field offensive analyst and in turn, if you let Nick Saban tell it, will pocket $35,000 from the Crimson Tide. Jones is still getting a hefty buyout from the Tennessee Volunteers of $8.26 million. The installments or the monthly installments from the buyout will expire as of February 28th, 2021. Also, congratulations are in order for Director of Sports Medicine and Alabama's head athletic trainer, Jeff Allen, who was named the National Athletic Trainer of the Year, courtesy of the National Athletic Trainers Association, the group organization out of Dallas, Texas. Congrats to Jeff Allen. He was the unsung hero of this past season, despite a multitude of injuries on the defensive side of the football. Allen able to help guys get healthy, diagnose injuries, help different players get treated, get back on the field. And during the biggest part of the season, the college football playoff, that Alabama defense was stifling against both Clemson and Georgia, especially in the second half against Georgia and in the national title game. So big ups to Jeff Allen in that regard, getting that award. But in this segment here, final segment, In My Own Words, we unveil something new, something different, something fresh. The Ask Stephen segment, where I go into the mailbag and I answer your questions on Twitter about Alabama football. Any questions, thoughts, concerns, you as the Alabama football fan, you as the smart fan, you as an individual that craves, that want to know the best up-to-date information about your team, the team you watch in the fall, the team you watch in spring practice, the team you watch in summer workouts, the Alabama Crimson Tide football program. I take on those questions. And today, got some questions right here from the Twitter sphere. And the first question comes from Bama Shorty on Twitter at Gucci Roll Tide. Bama Shorty writes in, why did Saban hire Butch Jones to Alabama? This is a good question. Bama Shorty, you, along with myself and a lot of other Crimson Tide fans and media pundits along this landscape, this is a question that we all ask, right? I mean, why did Nick Saban make this move? I understand Nick Saban coached against Butch Jones for 5 seasons, 2013 through 2017, when Jones was a part of the Tennessee Volunteers program as the head coach. And in that 5-year period, only 2 years, the games against Alabama and Tennessee were actually close. You go back to 2014 for just a moment, the final score was 34-20. Tennessee did outscore Alabama 20-14. In the second half, Joshua Dobbs came in, really gave that Volunteers fan base a shot in the arm. It was Lane Kiffin's first trip back to Neyland Stadium in his first year as Alabama's offensive coordinator. So the 2014 year was close. The 2015 year was close. The final score of that game, 19-14 in favor of the Tide. 2014, the final score was 34-20. But 2015, 19-14, it was a late strip sack by Ryan Anderson of Josh Dobbs. Ball pops out, recovered by A'Shawn Robinson. Derrick Henry would get a huge touchdown prior to the defensive stop on that possession, helping the Tide ink out a win or edge out a win at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So aside from 2014 and 2015, the games have not been close between Butch Jones and Alabama, Tennessee, and Butch Jones and Nick Saban, Tennessee and Alabama in the Butch Jones era for the Vols. I mean, 2016, Tennessee got clobbered 49-10. This past year, Volunteers got clobbered again. 2013, the year in which Alabama had A.J. McCarron. I believe that was the year where Landon Collins picked off Justin Worley and returned it for an 89-yard touchdown. So 3 of the 5 years, it has not been close for Butch Jones and the Volunteers during that time. But if you let Nick Saban tell it during his presser or during his moment talking to the media back on March 7th on Alabama's Pro Day, he said Crimson Tide very interested in bringing in Butch Jones, has a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information. When Tennessee played Alabama, always played the Crimson Tide tough, wants to see, what Butch Jones could bring to the program. These are words coming from Nick Saban prior to the contractual details coming into form. When I look at this Bama Shouted, and I mentioned this in a previous podcast, Butch Jones to Alabama means one thing. It's what can Alabama do for Butch Jones? With every coach that the Crimson Tide has brought in, outside looking in, that being when you talk Craig Kulagowski, Dan Enos, Jeff Banks, and Josh Gaddis, it's what can these guys do for Alabama, right? It's what can these guys do for Alabama. Jeff Banks is a solid special teams coach. He breathes special teams through and through. He brings something to Alabama. Dan Enos, I've said this time and time again, took average to below average talent at the quarterback position. At Central Michigan, Cooper Rush, Ryan Radcliffe. At Arkansas, Austin Allen, Brandon Allen. Made all 4 of those guys 3,000-yard passers, has put them all in the National Football League. He can do something for Alabama. Craig Kulagowski, same thing. Longtime assistant at Missouri. He took guys that were not 4- and 5-star guys. Harold Brantley, Coney Ely, Michael Sam, Marcus Golden, Shane Ray, and made them become 4- and 5-star guys. Put those guys in the National Football League. And then what did he do at Miami the last 2 years? Of the Hurricanes is 81 sacks, 56.5 came from the defensive line position or defensive line perspective. That's 70%. Craig Kulagowski can do something for Alabama. Same for Carl Scott. Same for Josh Gaddis, who served as a wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator at Penn State, helping Trace McSorley the last 2 years pass for over 3,000 yards. So those guys, it's what can they do for Alabama, because they're proven, what they're about at the respective spots. Even Pete Golding, prior to coming to Alabama, defensive assistant at University of Texas San Antonio, at University of Southern Mississippi, spent some time at Delta State, his alma mater, at Southeastern Louisiana, a D2 school. With everybody Nick Saban brought in from the outside, it's what can they do for Alabama. For Butch Jones, it's what can Alabama do for him, because he's trying to learn how to be a better head coach. He's always been around talent. I mean, during his time at Central Michigan, he had Antonio Brown, who's right now the face of the National Football League where wide receivers are concerned. Julio Jones is a big face. Odell Beckham, even though he's got the crazy antics off the field, is a big face. But if you look at between Antonio Brown and Julio Jones, some folks claim it's a coin toss between the two. But Antonio Brown, huge face when you look at the National Football League. and Butch Jones had him at Central Michigan. So he's known for having talent. He's known for recruiting talent. It's just the mental lapses at times with him molding the talent, preparing the talent, developing the talent, putting guys in the right spots to be successful, right? That's the biggest problem. That's the biggest knock. That's the biggest hang up when you talk Al Jones. But to answer your question, Bama Shawty, it's what Alabama can do for him. Not what he can do for Alabama. It's what Alabama can do for him. He's getting paid $35,000. He's getting paid a step below most teachers. And I'm talking most high school, elementary school teachers. But what can Bama do for Butch Jones is why Nick Saban hired him to the University of Alabama. He'll probably be able to definitely look at some game film, watch some game tape, cut up some offensive film, and provide some insight. But we'll see what happens as we go into this college football season of what really can Butch Jones do. Moving to our second question here, and this is a two-parter one actually, and this comes from Terry Truss on Twitter at In God I Trust 1. And Terry Truss asks me, who do I have starting in the secondary? That's part one. And part two, who do I see as this year's breakout defensive player? To answer the first question, who do I got starting in the secondary? As far as Alabama's base package, which Alabama barely comes out of its 3-4 system, its 3-4 base alignment, where you've got the 2 corners and 2 safeties. At corners in that package, I look at, for cornerbacks in that package, that's a good question here. I look at Savion Smith. Savion Smith is a corner. The other corner, Trayvon Diggs. At safety, I've got Deontay Thompson and Xavier McKinney. That would be in my base package. In nickel, I have Savion Smith at the corner, Trayvon Diggs at the corner, Shaheem Carter at star in that nickel package. The safeties remain the same, Deontay Thompson, Xavier McKinney. In dime, same deal. Savion Smith at the corner, Trayvon Diggs at the corner, Shaheem Carter at star, Daniel Wright at money. He's the dime back. He's going to be that dime linebacker position that Minkah Fitzpatrick played this past season. So Daniel Wright at money, safeties, Deontay Thompson, Xavier McKinney. Now, the biggest thing in the secondary, Terry, is going to be Trayvon Diggs, right? Last year in spring ball, summer workouts, but especially fall camp, I'm going to zero in on fall camp. Last year in fall camp, Trayvon Diggs was rising. I mean, I attended quite a few practices last year, quite a few scrimmages last year, and what I heard from a lot of players, a lot of guys around the program, a lot of media pundits, I kept hearing Trayvon Diggs is rising, he's surging, he's frustrating receivers, he's getting into guys' skin, he's aggravating guys, he's being an aggressor, he's jamming at the point of attack, he is really going at it. He should be the number one, or he should be one of the starting corners on this defense. Heard a lot of praise for Trayvon Diggs, and he was doing his thing. And then at some point during the latter portion of fall camp, he lost the fire, and Levi Wallace started to chirp. And after that Florida State game, Levi Wallace just took it over from there. For Trayvon Diggs, he's got to be able to hold that spot. That's the biggest question for him. He's got to hold that cornerback spot throughout spring, summer, fall, heading into the 2018 season. And the reason why I say this is Patrick Surtain Jr. comes in the summer. Young man out of Florida. Patrick Surtain Jr. comes in the summer. Jalen Armour-Davis comes in the summer. Josh Jobe comes in the summer. But I'm singling out Surtain Jr. because people are already starting to compare him to Minkah Fitzpatrick in the way he plays the game and the way he processes information and where his work ethic is concerned. And if any of the projections, assumptions are legitimate, then this is going to be really interesting, because if Surtain is able to pass up Trayvon Diggs, then now you look at Trayvon Diggs. Does he start in the dime position? Or does he squeeze out a spot at star? Can he squeeze out a spot at safety if he's passed up by Patrick Surtain Jr.? So the biggest point this offseason, the biggest point in that secondary is Trayvon Diggs. Can he hold down his spot at that corner position? Right now, he is lined up opposite Savion Smith at corner in the secondary throughout spring. But if I had to guess it right now, for my base package, I would have Savion Smith, Trayvon Diggs at the corner, Xavier McKinney, Deontay Thompson at safety. And nickel, Savion Smith, Trayvon Diggs corner, Shaheem Carter at star, Deontay Thompson, Xavier McKinney at safety. In dime, same deal, Savion Smith, Trayvon Diggs corner, Shaheem Carter in star, Daniel Wright at money, Deontay Thompson, Xavier McKinney at safety. The part 2 question, who is my breakout guy on defense this year? I'm going to go with Terrell Lewis. He should have been the breakout guy on defense last year, was pegged to be a guy to get you 8 to 10 sacks. Unfortunately, got hurt his elbow against Florida State, was out for a substantial amount of time before coming back against Auburn and then ultimately playing in the college football playoff against Clemson and had the huge sack against Georgia in the national championship game. But Terrell Lewis, somebody who's 6'5", 255 pounds, just a rangy, freakish athlete. He's added more muscle mass to his frame. This guy's just ready to play, y'all. And with Tosh Lupoi taking over as the defensive coordinator, defensive play caller, along with outside linebackers coach, I remember Lewis spoke to the media during week 1 of spring ball, and when they brought up Tosh Lupoi, he just grinned from ear to ear and said, "We know what Coach Tosh wants." And when a player responds like that, get yourself a Mountain Dew and a cookie and strap up. This is going to be a very, very fun season. Terrell Lewis, I believe, is going to be the breakout player for this year. He is a pass rush demon. He is a pass rush specialist. Now, am I saying he's going to surpass the Derek Thomas single-season sack record mark of 27 that he had back in 1988, 1989 for the Crimson Tide? No. But Terrell Lewis, a pass rush specialist. He's my breakout player for next year. But those 2 questions coming from Terry Truss at In God I Trust 1 on Twitter. So I appreciate those coming from Terry. And then last but not least, we have 06 Bravo on Twitter at 0_Bravo. And his question is, how do you think the new offensive and defensive coordinators will change how Alabama plays games? Or will it be typical Alabama business as usual? Good question. I think offensively, the Tide will be a bit more aggressive in the play calling because you have Michael Locksley as the main coordinator. And I get it, a lot of people upon that hire being made or upon that hire being announced or named, we're thinking, Locksley, that's not a big hire. That's not a splash hire. That's just a slight promotion. But keep in mind, Coach Locks was the one that for 80% of the time last season was helping to work and develop both Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, even Brian Dable last season, who served as the main offensive coordinator until now he's back in the National Football League with the Buffalo Bills, he even said that Locksley played the biggest role in the read option schemes and the different packages that were going forth for Jalen and Tua. But having Coach Locks with Josh Gaddis, once again, Josh Gaddis serving as co-OC and wide receivers coach, the 34-year-old who was the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach at Penn State under James Franklin. And this is a guy that, once again, helped put Christian Hackenberg in the National Football League as a quarterback, and Trace McSorley, two-time 3,000-yard passer, 2016, and of course this past season. And then he helped mentor a 1,000-yard wideout in Chris Godwin in 2015. So Josh Gaddis knows what he's doing. So you got Josh Gaddis, you've got Coach Locks, and then Dan Enos as your quarterback coach and associate head coach. All of these minds in one room. That offense is going to be very, very dynamic, magnetic, dangerous. A lot more aggressive play calling you can expect from the offense, especially with the core of that group coming back. As far as defense, Tosh Lupoi will have the same type of aggressive style as Jeremy Pruitt, but I feel like Lupoi will be able to fine-tune his moments better when it comes down to blitzing. I think with Pruitt, he was a little bit too blitz happy for his own good. Now, don't get me wrong. Jeremy Pruitt was great as a defensive coordinator. 54 sacks in 2016. Found a way to get creative and got 40 sacks this past season despite the injuries. I mean, Pruitt was good. Pruitt was good at what he did. Calling up blitzes, developing times when Alabama should stunt, when it should not stunt, when it should come after the quarterback, when it should just sit back and play in the coverage lane. Jeremy Pruitt was good. But when I look at Tosh Lupoi, I feel like he'll have a better handle on when do I call it, when do I sag off, fine-tuning things. Fine-tuning, when do I make this play happen? So I feel like it'll be an aggressive style on both sides, but the timing on to when to be aggressive will be the main difference between this year's Alabama team upcoming and last year's. But as we always know, Nick Saban, the head coach, Nick Saban, the head honcho, so not too much will be different, but there will be wrinkles here and there. There will be senses of aggression here and there as far as the offense and defense is concerned at Alabama. But definitely appreciate the questions coming in from Bama Shawty at Gucci Road Tide on Twitter, Terry Truss at NGuy I Trust 1, and 06 Bravo at 0_ Bravo. The Ask Steven segment, we're debuting this every single Friday on In My Own Words, where I dive into the mailbag on Twitter to answer your questions. Questions from the Alabama Smart Fan. Questions from those that crave to hear or that want to know the best information up to date on what is going on with your Alabama Crimson Tide. As always, you can catch the podcast on Twitter. You can catch the podcast on Facebook. You can catch the podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube site. Subscribe to the podcast site. Like the podcast. Leave comments. Want to hear from you. New podcasts go out on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. I know it's busy. I know it's crazy, but new podcasts Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, which will be the Ask Steven segment on Fridays. To refresh yourself on old podcasts, you can check it out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays, refreshing yourself on old podcasts or stuff just going on that has been recently put on the site. But for all of us here at Touchdown Alabama Magazine, I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. Enjoy your weekend. And until next time, folks, in my own words, so long, everybody. It's your boy, Stephen M. Smith, host of In My Own Words, the podcast. If you are a fan of this show, then I encourage you to subscribe to the Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube channel. Also follow the brand on Facebook, Twitter, and other forms of social media as we continue to bring you the best in Alabama football and Crimson Tide athletics.